Hey everybody, so we got a special guest today, man. Brad Borders with Purple Heart Homes is joining us. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing wonderful. Doing
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you guys for having me on. I love the name of your show.
Well, we just try to keep it real.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
so
And you literally are in a gun room.
yeah,
I
we,
mean,
we 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 literally
yeah.
are.
It wasn't a metaphor. It was
No,
literally in a gun room.
yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, your military background and your how your organization started and all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, my name's Brad. I grew up a son of a Navy guy, and then always wanted to join, but I got in some trouble back in the '80s, and with some dudes with some badges, and I wanted to join the Marine Corps and be a Marine Corps officer, but I
Okay.
was declined back about 1988, and so I went on and did other things, and became a home builder and remodeler, and then ultimately had a had a spiritual epiphany and became a pastor, and
Okay.
um,
Oh,
and I met a incredible young woman about 33 years ago. Broke up a fight at a bar between these two girls, and I married one of them, and we're still married, and we had two kids, and then ultimately, this thing 9/11 happened, and I was a 37-year-old dad and husband, and trying to earn a living for my family, and serving at a church, and laying in bed, couldn't sleep at night, thinking about all these kids getting on airplanes to fly overseas and fight. And I wanted to join as an 11 Bravo in the Army, and against my dad's better wishes, because he wanted me to join the Navy. And then they told me I was too old because I was 37, and at the time you could only join when you were 36.
Yeah.
And they said, but there's a waiver if you can do one of these three things. If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. And I was like, nope. If you can be a lawyer, I was like, can't do that. And they said, or you can be a chaplain. And I was like, oh, you mean like Father Mulcahy and on MASH? And they were like, and the recruiter, I was just at a regular recruiter. He's like, yeah, something like that. And anyhow, long story short, a couple of moral waivers and some medical waivers for some surgeries I had. Found myself at in an OBC course for chaplains at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Ultimately, now I'll be retiring from the reserves this year, so I'm
Awesome.
19 years in. Now I'm considerably older than 37. If you do the math, you can figure it out. Um,
hey, so are
and
we.
yeah, right. And so, but I had an incredible career as a reservist. I was mobilized 10 years on active duty, served in the civil affairs community, and in the special forces community, particularly at Fort Bragg with Third Group, and just incredible opportunity to be around some amazing folks, and just loved every minute of it. It was the hardest and best years of my life, and burying friends, and just but meeting some of the best friends I'll ever have until the day I die. And I came off of active duty in 2017. Came off of orders, and just my wife and I decided that was enough, and I didn't need to be away from home anymore. I had a tour to Iraq, and spent some time in other places as well. And so I came home, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I stayed in the reserves. I was an instructor at the Chaplain School at the Army for a few years, and but I didn't know what I was going to do vocationally on the civilian side. And I wanted to help veterans in our community kind of recover. I saw the suicide rates, and I knew veterans here, and I'm in North Carolina, and just knew local guys that were struggling, and so I wanted to start this class. I started this class called Reboot Combat Recovery. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's
Mm-mm.
a faith-based approach to trauma recovery. And I wanted to start this class, and I didn't really know anything about the veteran dynamics here in our county. And I knew about this organization called Purple Heart Homes that was here. And I knew these two young guys that had founded this thing. And so I came over to Purple Heart Homes to see if they knew any veterans that were in need of this combat recovery course. And lo and behold, I found out there's a whole lot of combat veterans around here. I just didn't know them, you know.
Yeah.
And through my relationship development with these two guys that founded this organization, they called me and said, "Hey, we'd like for you to come work for us." And I was like, "Well, what am I going to do, man? You guys do home repair. I don't really do that anymore." And they're like, "Well, we're not really. We'll teach you what you need to know about what we do. We just, looking for folks that care." And it turned out to be the best fit ever for me and my family. And so I found a home here, and I've been with them for 6 years. And so just kind of the elevator speech on Purple Heart Homes. We were founded in 2008. A guy named Dale Beatty and John Galino were two North Carolina National Guardsmen deployed to Iraq in the early days. They got blown up in 2004, in November of 2004. Dale lost both his legs, and John busted his head wide open, back injuries, and all of that. John was RTD, but Dale had to go to Walter Reed for about a year and a half. And when Dale got home, realized, that the house he was living in wasn't suitable for his injuries, being in a wheelchair most of the day and couldn't get around. And so John, his buddy, when he went in the National Guard, he was a contractor, and he saw this need and networked a bunch of builders and veterans organizations. And at the time, in 2004 or 5, there really weren't any nonprofits doing housing stuff for veterans, right? It was non-existent, so there was no help available. That was the early days of Wounded Warriors, but they weren't really doing anything specific like that. And so John just kind of rallied all the folks around our community. And what they noticed was, as they built Dale's house, they built him a fully adaptive house and for him to live out his best life, And but what they noticed was all the guys that were coming to help build the house, swinging hammers and screwing stuff together, they were all these Vietnam veterans, and they were like, "Who's taking care of these guys?" That was kind of the question they asked. All these guys have come out for me because I served in Iraq, but who's taking care of them? And really, kind of the idea for Purple Heart Homes grew out of all of that. As a community came together to take care of one injured veteran, so they got this idea. 2008, all the paperwork was done. The first project happened in 2010. One project that year for a Vietnam veteran who got a ramp. That was the major accomplishment that year. And as of today, 1,035 veteran projects later, we did 189 last year alone.
Wow.
And we've done work in 42 different states, and we have 14 chapters in different locations across the country that are all staffed by volunteers, veterans and non-veterans alike, to come together in their communities to improve the lives of veterans, make sure every veteran's got a safe place to call home. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's kind of similar to how this podcast came about. When me and Doug got together, we went to the local VFW and was members, and we just didn't like what we were seeing. They would brag about the money that they were making and from bingo and stuff like that, and then they would do some things for the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and stuff like that. But they had, the little bit we were there, they had no veteran projects going at all. I remember one day, and it kind of ties in with what you guys are doing. I remember one day we were sitting there having a meeting, and they were planning the events for the 9/11 memorial that they were going to have. And a veteran called and was asking about some help with fixing I don't remember if it was their roof or their air conditioner, what it was, something on their house. And man, he went instantly into the red tape mode of giving them the runaround. And then when they hung up, he was like, and this is the commander. he just kind of was like, yeah, we're not here just to do handouts, you know. And
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
me
And
and
I
Doug
think
learned
that,
real quick that wasn't the place for us.
Yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah. And, you know, hey, look, I think our generation, especially these kids that are younger than us, right? I was an old man when I, when I showed up, and, I were dudes that were retiring that were my age, and I was a newly minted lieutenant, and but I think this generation and what I've seen about it, people want to fuss about, whatever you want to call them, Gen Z or millennials. I don't care what you call them. But one of the things that I've noticed about this generation is they won't be involved in stuff. They don't want to sit
Yeah.
around, and they want to have their hand on something. And I really appreciate that. And they love working on teams. They want to be together in community.
Yeah.
And well, we leverage that, man. I like to leverage that. I like to leverage that attitude, and I really appreciate it. And I look, man, I'm a member of our local Legion Post, and some of them are better than others.
Yeah.
Ours happens to be one. Our Legion Post happens to be really good, and they're always trying to help somebody and do things, and we try to support. But and I'm then there's others that not a lot happens. So,
Yeah.
but we're gonna the veteran service organizations are gonna have to learn, or they won't be there, because there'll be people that aren't interested in just sitting around, and they're gonna go away.
Yeah.
If you're not careful.
And I
So
think that's kind of what happens with our VFW. I mean, they have like 400 members, and
yeah,
every meeting there's like 7 of them.
that's that. It doesn't have to be that way though, right?
No, no, it definitely doesn't. And that was the one thing I liked, when I was going through y'all's website about, being there to help aging veterans. You don't see very many organizations that are, I mean, you can hit Google and have 35 different pages of people that are helping wounded veterans, you
Yes.
know, and some bigger than others, some better than others, but
Yeah.
you don't see a whole lot of people that forget about, like you said, the World War II, the Korean veterans, Vietnam veterans now, that are
Yeah.
getting that age
What
where they just
about
can't do those things.
yeah? And what about the veteran who served in 1986 and got hurt on a loading dock,
Yeah.
and got medically discharged and now is suffering from that? Um, and so while we're called Purple Heart Homes, you don't have to be a Purple Heart awardee to apply with us. You just have to be a service connected disabled veteran with 10% minimum, and that's it. That's you know, and everybody, if you're service connected, you're a minimum of 10%. There's
Yeah.
nothing less than that, right?
Yeah.
And I will even say this: if we have veterans that apply that are above 60 years old, we will waive the service connected disability if they can just prove that they're a veteran. If they can send us a DD 214 and an ID, and so we have an application process. Now we'll tell you that to this, because we're open to all veterans of all eras, of all ages, and we like to say this: it doesn't matter where you're served or when you served; it just matters that you served. That has increased exponentially our applications, right?
So
And
so what's the selection process? I mean, I don't know if you can get into that, but
yeah,
like,
no, yeah, it's not very complicated. We have an application process that folks can go online. If they can't, a lot of our older veterans are not computer savvy, right? And so we just
mhm.
ask them to call us, and then we'll mail them, and they can hand jam the application process. So basically, it's a DD 214. It's a background consent form, right? Because we have some restrictions that our board has put on us about violent felonies and things like that, about serving folks like that. But again, I would say this, right? We take each one and look at them before we say yes or no. We had a veteran that was a Vietnam era guy. He had fought in Vietnam, but prior to going to Vietnam, he had stolen a car, right? Had a felony on his record, and by our law, it disqualified him from service. But we realized that the reason he went to Vietnam is because the judge ordered him to go to the army to, as it, he was either jail or the army for stealing that car.
That's
And he
the way
was
it used to
19
be.
years old.
That's
Did you do
yeah.
something stupid when you were 19?
Absolutely.
I can raise my hand. I did, right?
I can probably say 2 weeks ago.
Right, right. And so anyhow, we went ahead and helped that guy, right? Now there's some we have to turn down, right? Guy, applies here, he's murdered somebody. We got to go. Yeah, we're not going to touch that one. But for the most part, it's the background consent forms, the DD 214. It's proof of home ownership, right? Because they got to own their own home, right? Because we don't do work on, if they're living in an apartment, we don't come in and modify an apartment building that someone else has owned. Now, if they're renting from a family member and like, if it's a son renting from a father, and then the father who owns the home gives permission for us to do, then we would do that, right?
Right.
We just have a basic screening process, and then of course that goes to an assessment, and then budgeting, and then project execution. Right.
So is this pretty much just strictly for modifications in the homes, or is this like a 60-year, 70-year-old veteran, that's roof is coming apart? Do you guys do just upkeep for
No,
stuff
no,
like
no,
that?
no, no. We do roofs, HVAC, ramps, door widening, accessibility to bathrooms, floors, mold remediation, whatever. If it's a safety or health issue, right, we will take a look at it. Right.
That's awesome.
And we've got some incredible partners, man. We got, Home Depot's on board with us, and Lowe's and Bank of America and Owens Corning. I got to shout out to Owens Corning, the roofing manufacturer. They have a program called the Roof Deployment Program, and we started out in 2017, I think. We did some partnership with them on about 2 or 3 roofs. They do anywhere from 25 to 30 roofs a year for veterans, and a partnership deal with us. And they supply all the shingles, and they work together with their local platinum contractors, right? And so that's the way it happens. There's got to be a local platinum contractor that's willing to donate the labor, and then Owens Corning comes in and donates all of the roofing, and then the veteran gets a new roof. Man, it's pretty awesome. Now, what we'll do is we'll pick up the bill if they get into the roof and it's got to be a tear off or something. They've got to replace plywood or something. We pay for all the plywood. Owens Corning takes care of all the roofing and fasteners and everything like that. So
That's
it's
awesome.
really, really cool programs. And we can't, we can't thank our corporate partners enough, but man, we've got a ton of just regular folks out there that, $10 a month and $20 a month, and that we try to stay connected with and have relationships with. And then, we've got some individuals too that support us, and, maybe, hey, they've been blessed, and they've done well in life, and they believe in our mission, and they like us, they trust us, and we're transparent about what we do. All our books and stuff are on our website, free for anybody to look at, and we don't make any bones about it. And here's how we spend our money, and this is who we pay and what we pay these folks, and so, I think transparency is the key when it comes to, because I realize that every dollar that comes in here was from someone else.
Right.
Right. Every dollar was, somebody worked hard for that dollar, and it came to us, and we got to be good stewards with that, and we really believe in that honesty and integrity. And then too, and compassion is one of our biggest, that's kind of at the outset of our mission, is having compassion, not just for the veterans that serve, but having compassion for the people that want to get involved with us, and hearing their story, why they want to be involved. And as somebody who's involved in fundraising, is what I do. I'm having conversations with people every day about, hey, why do you even give to us, right? What was it that sparked your interest about us? And usually what it comes down to is like, hey, we can trust you guys, and so
Yeah.
We try to keep that from top to bottom, integrity and honesty in everything that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there that have gotten themselves in trouble. I mean, everybody knows about the situation with Wounded Warrior and how they've had to kind of rebrand themselves.
Sure. Yeah. But, and to their credit, they're doing really well now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're doing really well now. We're grateful that they've righted that ship, and because they have such bandwidth to be able to help so many people.
Right.
And just the name Wounded Warriors is just on everybody's lips. And, heck, man, I saw, and they got like their own energy drink now,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, we want them. We don't, I guess the way we look at it is like, we don't compete with other charities
Right.
at all.
Well,
We work together with other charities. We work
yep.
with Gary Sinise, man. I mean, dude, that guy is unbelievable, man. What he's doing, and we collaborate with them. We work hand in hand on different projects with them. They've got their own house modification program. They build the adaptive homes, the fully adaptive homes for critically and catastrophically injured veterans.
Yeah.
But they do their RISE program where they do modifications. We work with them on that. The Semper Fi Fund, bro, man, those dudes, they are incredible. What they've done for veterans, and Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, yeah.
And they're a godsend, man. They've got, I think, 172 Veterans Build affiliates all across the country, where they're doing home modifications for veterans that need it. And then we partner with them in multiple locations. And so, hey, dude, with like, you put a bunch of shoulders together, you can lift a whole lot more.
Yeah.
You can't try to do it on your own. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're right. The one thing, me and Doug just recently started to get into was looking at the homeless veteran population. It was really astonishing, to me. And I mean, it made sense where the higher numbers were, but when you start looking nationwide, I think 2020, California had over 10,000 homeless veterans.
It is unimaginable.
Yeah.
To think about all these veterans that are living under bridges and what we call it housing insecure, and it's it's just they don't have any security. They don't have a place to call home, and they wander a lot, and they go from, and it could be, there's layers of reasons why, right? It could be financial, but it could be substance abuse. It could be,
right.
The inability to overcome the trauma that they went through,
yep.
Family situations, right? All of those things layer into it's an incredibly complex problem. And man, let's not forget the entanglements with law enforcement. All right.
Yeah.
And that really got me going. I just got off a call a while ago. So about a year and a half ago, I met this veteran here who had been charged with felony spousal abuse. Come find out, man, he had a couple of tours to Afghanistan. The company that he was in had a lot of KIAs, and then when they got back home, out of his company, 14 of his buddies had taken their own lives. Right? I mean, bruh. I mean, who wouldn't self-medicate, right?
Yeah.
And so he cross-leveled some of his meds, and then added in some other, non-traditional medicines, and blacked out and had a psychotic episode. Put his hands on his wife, but he had no history of that. They've been married for 15 years. She loved him, but anyhow, he got charged with this felony, right? And you get charged with a felony, man, that your limitations are automatically, that's left and right limits, and now narrowed down for your choices in life. He had a great job. And so I was like, hey, did anybody talk in court about his service, about his friends that killed himself, about the wounds of war that he carried with him? Not a word was mentioned of it, right? And so I was like, man, is there anybody talking about this? Well, it turns out there is. And that's the thing called Veterans Treatment Court. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's about it started up in Massachusetts about 15 years ago in response to veterans coming home from Iraq in the early days. And it's grown to like 650 municipalities now have Veterans Treatment Court. And so basically what it is, it's in lieu of a punitive form of justice for a veteran who's had a no kidding encounter with the law and he's wrong, right? Instead of a punitive approach to justice, it's a restorative approach to justice, right? To where the veteran can opt out of going to jail. And again, these are usually they're nonviolent, either nonviolent felonies or nonviolent advanced misdemeanors. It can't be you walked into a convenience store and shot up the place and killed the clerk and all that, right? anything that's tied to either mental health or substance abuse, right? And so, anyhow, we got that going here in our county now, and I'm just thrilled, absolutely thrilled that program is going to be starting here. We got a grant from our county, got a grant from Department of Justice and Justice for Vets, which is an actual organization through the Department of Justice. And it's a phenomenal program. And get this, the rate of recidivism is 9 out of 10 veterans that go through Veterans Treatment Court. This is proven, clinically proven over the last 15 years. 9 out of 10 are never back before a judge.
That is awesome.
That is incredible because they're getting the help they need. And the cool part about it is it incorporates veteran peer mentors. And so that's what I'm going to be leading is the Veteran Peer Mentor Network, where I'm going to coalesce a team of local veterans that are doing well and want to help. And then what we'll do is we'll partner up with those that have been charged and, walk with them for the next 1 to 2 years through this program and go to court with them every time they're supposed to go and text them and give them rides. And, hey, man, it's, battle buddies, right?
Yeah.
So hey, look, we don't leave anybody behind on the battlefield. We're not going to leave them behind here. So,
yep. And that's the mentality that needs to come, forward is like you said before, it's not a race. We're not competing. Everybody is trying to get to the point where there's no suicides a day and veterans are just taken care of.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And that's what we want to see. We're not looking for recognition, money, or any of that stuff. We just want to see and get the programs out there to people that can help.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So man, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to be involved in stuff like this. I never thought I'd do this when I was a kid, So
no.
Yeah, me neither.
I wanted to be a garbage man when I was a kid. That was my job. I thought the garbage truck was cool, So, I exceeded. Yeah, that's how you do it, man. You set low expectations for life, you're liable to exceed them, right? So,
garbage dudes get paid pretty good nowadays. So
yeah, they're doing okay. Yeah. I got a happy wife, so I got a happy life, right? So,
yeah, that's it. That's it.
But I did want to tell you all about our co-founder Dale. So, when I first met Dale, Dale's he's a really interesting guy. And unfortunately, on February 12th, 2018, man, he was getting ready to go to Nashville and got up out of bed and just fell over, man. He had a pulmonary embolism. And for your listeners or watchers, folks that have had, traumatic injuries like that, blood clots or can come back and get you at any time. And anyhow, so the war killed him, 14 years later. And we lost Dale. And so that year, in 2018, we really didn't, I think it's out of trauma. That was traumatizing for all of us. But out of trauma, you got a couple of choices. You can either fold the tents up, or you can instead of having post-traumatic stress disorder, you can have post-traumatic stress growth. And that's what we did. And we just made up in our minds that Dale would not want us to fold the tents, and so we didn't. So every year since 2018, we've been increasing in growth. And, I think we had 15 employees that year, and we have 33 now, which is pretty remarkable. We've got a great team. We've got veterans and non-veterans alike, and then this year, and speaking to the homelessness issue, is we started building tiny homes here now, and so we're a fully licensed manufacturer of tiny homes, and we've completed 8 or 9 of them, and we partnered with our local homeless shelter they have a veterans transition program for homeless veterans. And we donated 2 of these tiny homes to that program for another layer of independent living for the veterans that are coming through that program. And it's been remarkable. We got 2 more we're getting ready to send down to them. And so it's been really cool. And so we want to kind of be the nation's leader in veterans housing issues, and that's where we want to go. And hopefully me and my cohorts here are planting trees that we'll never see the shade of, and that 20 years from now, Purple Heart Homes will be a name that everybody is aware of, doing great things for veterans 20 years from now, for those that are joining now.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, that's one of my biggest interests is housing issues, for homeless veterans. There's some people out there that are doing things, but I don't think it's a problem that a lot of people I don't think they know how to tackle.
Tough, yeah. And if it was an easy issue to solve, it'd be solved, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not just with the ability, but now you're talking about land that has to be purchased to put the houses on, the cost of building the houses, the cost of maintaining the houses, and then you got to take it a step further. There was a reason why the individuals were homeless versus in a house to begin with. So you got to fix those underlying problems as well. Otherwise, the program's just not going to work. You're going to
have continuity of care and wraparound services as well.
Yeah. So
and
it is a big problem.
It is a huge and massive problem. And again, I don't think any one person fixes it.
No.
But I tell you, where are you guys located at geographically? Where are y'all?
We're in Rolla, Missouri.
Okay. So Kansas City. All right. Kansas City has a veterans village out there who's kind of the cornerstone, groundbreaking veterans community. If you ever get a chance, look that up on the internet. And I don't know how far you're from Kansas City, but go there sometime and check this place out. It is pretty remarkable what they've done. And that was a partnership between the municipality there and a bunch of nonprofits that came together to do that. And that, I think that's the secret sauce, is collaborative effort between good intended, high functioning nonprofits and municipalities, where the leadership actually cares about what's going on and wants to see problems solved, and then would be willing to allocate resources to make that problem no longer a problem, right? And so we're trying to do that with a couple of local towns here, and so far we've got some really encouraging talks going on.
Good.
And we think we're going to see some real progress this year, especially in a town down close to Charlotte. So we're really excited about that.
Well, that's awesome. I think Brad, we're going to get close to ending. So if you don't mind, could you go ahead and tell everybody how they could reach you guys and the best way?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, hold on a second, Brad.
Yeah,
Hey,
go ahead.
What's that picture hanging up on the back wall there?
This one?
Yep.
Man, that's a really special picture to me. So that is the father of a girl that I went to high school with, and her name was Laura Dotson, and that's her dad. Her dad passed away when we were little, and she never knew about what he did in the military. He was a tail gunner on a B-24 Liberator over Europe during World War II. Right? He was older. My dad's in his 80s, and her dad was, I think he had her when he was like 45 or something. Right? So he was older.
All right.
But she never knew what he did in the military, and she was digging around in some old boxes, right? And she found that picture, and then there's another one. There's another one over here. And it's her dad in front of his B-24 with a big bomb, and it says "an Easter egg for Hitler" written on the bomb, right? So, but I just thought that she sent me a photocopy of that picture, and I just thought that he looks like a movie star, man. He looks like somebody you would see, in one of them old 40s World War II movies, And I was like, man, I just put that up on my wall in honor of him. And
yeah,
that's awesome.
Like old Murphy.
Yeah. Audie Murphy.
Audie Murphy.
He is a cool looking cat, man. And he had like a Distinguished Flying Cross and all of these awards and stuff. It was funny. I was having the conversation with her, and she was like, I don't know what any of this stuff means. And so I was telling her, about it, and it was a really cool way for us, she and I, to reconnect on that. So
That was pretty cool.
I think kind of that's probably not a very uncommon situation. You know, a lot of these guys came back from the war, and then they had their families after the war because they were so young when they went, and they
yeah,
never talked about it. They never brought it up with the kids
yeah,
or their
that
wives.
generation. Well, they don't call them the greatest generation for nothing, man. You know,
Yeah.
they all grew up during the Depression. They didn't have a pot to pee in, you know, and
Yep.
uh, and then they went and fought this incredible war, and were gone for years at a time. Didn't know whether they were going to come home. They lost, you know, we lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers and airmen and
Yep.
Marines, and Navy guys. And my wife's grandfather was a POW in World War II. He joined at 27 years old, left his family, and got captured his first day on the battlefield in the Battle of the Bulge,
Oh
and
wow.
spent the rest of the war in a German prison camp. Never spoke a word of it his whole life until 2004, and I was a newly minted Lieutenant Chaplin, and I was home, and we were doing a D-Day celebration here for all the D-Day veterans, World War II veterans that lived in our community. And I went and picked him up. He was in his 80s then, and was experiencing some dementia symptoms at that time. And he gets in the vehicle with me. I had my uniform on, right? He's like, "You in the Army?" I was like, "Well, yeah, Papo, you know I'm in the Army." And then he just went, "Dadgum Germans." And I was like, "What about it?" He was like, "Man, they made me work. I had frostbite on my toes." And then he went on to tell all these stories about, you know, being at the prison camp in Germany. And I
Wow.
was like, "What were the Germans like? Were they mean to you?" He said, "No, they weren't mean to us. They were starving just like us." Yeah.
Mm.
Oh wow. I would have never expected that.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was just all this really cool insight. And he ended up passing away while I was in Iraq. And my wife wanted me to officiate his funeral. And so, you know, this is before the days where we could do stuff like this. And so I recorded it from I was on the Syrian border, way in eastern Iraq, and I recorded it in a metal Connex and tried to find an internet connection where I could send a video. It took me like 2 days to upload it. Right,
Yeah.
it was terrible. And you know, I got to officiate Papa's funeral from Iraq. Just
That
kind
is
of
awesome.
Yeah.
but,
That's great.
anyhow. Well, to
I'm gonna
answer
miss
your
you.
question before we
Got
took a
off.
rabbit trail, a really good rabbit trail, by the way.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, folks can find out more about us by going to phhusa.org, and everything they need to know about what we do will be on there. You can volunteer. We are always looking for communities that want to start chapters, and we're interested in how does one go about that, in forming a Purple Heart Homes chapter. Of course, folks can donate to our cause and you know, join our Hearts of Honor Club, which is our monthly giving club, where you can commit to giving as little as $1 a month or $5 a month to give up a cup of coffee so that you can improve the life of a disabled veteran who needs some help. And so we've got all that. All of our upcoming events will be on the website. And one of the coolest things we got coming up, and this is, I don't know how this happened, but somehow we got into good graces of Fox Sports. And so some of our team was just out in Arizona and did a project for a Vietnam era veteran out there with all of Fox Sports support staff for the Super Bowl. And so they're going to run some things for us during the Super Bowl. So we're really excited about that.
That's
And
awesome.
we're sort of getting prepared for what the aftermath of that might look like. So
Yep.
we're really pleased to know that we've got a relationship like that with an incredible company that really thinks a lot of veterans and wants to continue to call attention to that. So we're super thankful to Fox Sports. So keep an eye out for that.
Oh yeah.
We'll add your guys' links and everything onto our webpage for people that are looking for resources for help. They would be a quick way for them to be able to find you. If you don't mind, once we end this, hold tight. I want to talk to you about something real quick.
Absolutely. Love to, man. Thank you all so much for having me on. I appreciate being in the gun room today.
No problem. No problem. Thanks for coming.
All right.